recorded words of Joseph. He appears on the stage of history for a few moments and then disappears. Here is what we know about him. His father was Jacob. His family hometown was Bethlehem in Judea, but he lived in Nazareth in Galilee. That meant that Joseph and Mary had to travel about 80 miles in order to register for the census. He is from the royal line of David. The genealogy in Matthew 1 makes that clear. He was a carpenter by trade. He was a poor man. We know that because when he and Mary presented Jesus in the temple, they brought two birds, either doves or pigeons, to sacrifice. In Luke chapter 2, verse 24. Jews only did that when they could not afford a lamb. He was a keeper of the law. How old was Joseph? We don't know the answer for sure, but many writers agree that he was probably a young man and possibly a teenager. Now Mary turns up pregnant. Joseph only knows one thing for sure: he's not the father. What words describe a man at a time like this? Anger, confusion, frustration, embarrassment, shame, rage, disappointment. What did he say to her? What did she say to him? Did she tell him about the angel Gabriel? If she did, can you blame him for not believing her? Did he say to her, "Mary, how could you? You were pledged to me. We were going to get married. I was going to build a little house for us in Nazareth. Mary, Mary, how could you do this? Why, Mary, why? I kept myself for you. Why couldn't you keep yourself for me?" I think Joseph cried harder that day than he had ever cried in his life. Matthew chapter 1 verses 24 and 25 are insufficiently celebrated as great Christmas verses. They reveal Joseph's finest qualities. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he had no union with her until she had given birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus. Every step he takes testifies to his greatness. By marrying her quickly, he broke Jewish custom, but he protected Mary's reputation. She was pregnant, and he wasn't the father, but he married her anyways. By keeping her a virgin until Jesus was born, he protected the miracle of Jesus' conception by the Holy Spirit against slander by the unbelievers. By naming the baby, he exercised the father's prerogative and thus officially took him to his family as his own son. The story in Matthew chapter 1 is told exactly as a man would tell it. I, like Joseph, I wish I could meet him. He strikes me as a very good man. We give more attention to Mary, and rightly so. But Joseph deserves his credit too. He is a man of faith, struggling with his doubts, persuaded to believe what God has said, and ultimately acting upon his persuasion. Joseph stands as a model of what a godly man looks like. He was tough when he could have been weak. He was tender when he could have been harsh. He was thoughtful when he could have been hasty. He was trusting when he could have doubted. There is one other line of proof about the kind of man Joseph was. When Jesus grew up and began his ministry, he chose one word above all others to describe what God is like. He called him Father. Part 5. Away in the manger. The hours passed in the lonely stable. Finally the pain seemed to be as one. The moment had arrived. Mary cried out, straining with all her might, and fell back onto the blanket. Nothing. Then a tiny sound, a whimper, then a loud cry. It was a boy, a beautiful, healthy, brand spanking new baby boy. Joseph held it up, the baby, for Mary to see. "Let me hold him," she said, and she did. Then she lay for a moment. Now the sleep she had fought for hours came to her eyes. The stress of the long trip finally catching up with her. More than anything in all the world, she wanted to go to sleep. But before she did, she picked up a rough piece of cloth, tore it in strips, and wrapped the baby tightly. Then she looked for a place to put him. The only place she could find was a feeding trough, carved out of stone, rough hewn, with bits of food stuck to the bottom. It was perfect. She laid him in the feeding trough and then lay down to go to sleep. It had been a long, long day. As she drifted off to sleep, she wondered where they would go in the morning. He didn't sleep just yet. Too much to think about. What a lucky man he is. He looked first at his wife, so tired and yet so beautiful, and then at the baby boy, surely the most beautiful baby in the world. How strange, yet how fitting that it should all end like this. It happened just as the angel said it would. He didn't worry about naming the baby. The angel had taken care of all that. Give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. Matthew chapter 1 verse 21. How strange that it should happen to him, Joseph, just an ordinary carpenter, and to Mary, an innocent teenage girl. Who could figure it all out? Emmanuel, the angel said, God with us. Mary, who had never known Joseph, now delivering her first child. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son. That was the way it was at the first Christmas night 2,000 years ago. Baby sleeping, mother dreaming, father thinking, and God watching over it all. Well, I hope you enjoyed a different rendering of a journey to Bethlehem. In the next 2 Sundays, I will be doing other stories on Christmas, since we are in December. And as most people know, we celebrate Christmas in December, but we have no way of knowing exactly when Jesus was born. Most research and things that you read, they believe because of the harvest and things like that that were mentioned. It was probably around March or April. But we celebrated on December 25th. And if you really stop and think, it is kind of irrelevant. The important thing is that Jesus was born. And that's all we have to think about. Many people throughout history, we only have a rough idea when the individual was born. And then you look at the whole scheme of things, it doesn't really make any difference. Many of us through the years, we celebrate our children's birthday, not necessarily on their day. A lot of people that I know, and even we've done it in the past, even though their birthday might be on a Tuesday or Wednesday, we have a tendency to celebrate on a Saturday because people are not working. It's an easier time to celebrate. Kids aren't in school. We don't have to worry about them getting home early. So throughout history, we've changed days for birthdays and things like that. Mainly because it's more convenient. So it really doesn't matter. Because if we really stop to think of it, we're born on a particular day, and yet the days change. We may have been born on a certain day, at a certain time, a certain year, but the following year we're going to celebrate the birthday. It'll be the same day or number, but it'll be a different day of the week. So we need to realize that, too many people get hung up on Christmas or in a lot of things that we read about in religion and in history. The important thing is that the event happened, and that's what's important. And that covers the religious section of the show. There's just a couple of things I want to go with. A lot of things have been going on this week, but like I say, I've been having ran into some problems with my elbow, so it makes it kind of difficult to get things I would like to cover. But as far as many things, we need to be in prayer for the unfortunate event that happened in San Bernardino, California. We need to be in prayer for all those that were affected by the incident, not only the families of those that were injured and killed, but also the family of perpetrators. They left a 6-month-old baby, and many times when these things happen, families get the brunt of the hate, and many times they have no idea what was going on or what transpired. So we need to be in prayer for all of them. And for those of us that are in the military, one of the things that's going on, I know many people that are retired, and there's been some changes, especially for those that are in TRICARE. I know half a dozen people, including my brother, who has TRICARE. But I'll read this to you. It came out just this past Monday, the 30th. Congress is promising to launch a sweeping reform of the military health system next year. The law